I got a comment on one of my videos a couple months ago. A guy named Bill Rowe, and I quote, "What do you do when you run out of water?" Bill, great question. And honestly, Bill's not alone. I get some version of this every single week. In comments, in DMs, on showings, at open houses, people pull me aside. They're about to tell me a secret and they whisper, "Hey, what's the deal with the water out here?" And I get it. The headlines have been terrifying. Arizona's drying up. The Colorado River is disappearing. People are losing their water supply. You read enough of that at midnight, suddenly moving to Scottsdale feels like buying a beach house that's about to slide into the ocean. So today, I'm going to answer Bill properly. Not in a YouTube comment, in a full video. With actual facts, actual context, and the kind of honest take you are only going to get from someone who has been living and working in this market for 40 years. And I'm going to show you something about the story that made all those national headlines that every single outlet completely missed. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand the Arizona water situation better than 90% of the people currently trying to scare you about it. So welcome back to Living in Scottsdale. I'm Charlie O'Malley, real estate agent here for over 20 years, lived here for 40, moved from Chicago in 1984, and never left. And yes, I am fully aware that I'm a Scottsdale real estate agent telling you Scottsdale is just fine. Bear with me. The facts are going to do the work here, not my commission check. Before we get into it, if you're new here and you're seriously researching a move to Scottsdale, hit that subscribe button right now. I put out honest, no-fluff content every week about what it is actually like to live here. And if you know someone who has been scared off by the water headlines, share this video with them. You might genuinely change their decision and the path of their life. All right, let's talk about some water. The fear is real, sort of. Here's what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna sit here and say there's nothing to see here, move along, everything is perfect, buy a house, here's my card. Because that's simply not true, and you would smell it immediately. The Colorado River has been under serious stress for over 20 years. Lake Mead and Lake Powell have hit historically low water levels. The West is getting drier. None of that is fake news. All of that is real. But here's where the national media loses the plot completely. They take a regional water management challenge, which is real, and turn it into an Arizona apocalypse story. And those are two very different things. It's like reporting that a neighborhood in Miami has a flooded basement during a hurricane and writing the headline, "Florida sinking into the ocean." Technically related, wildly misleading. And nothing illustrated that gap better than the story that started all of this. The one that went national. The one that has people like Bill lying awake wondering what happens when you run out of water. Rio Verde. Coming up, the part of the Rio Verde story that made zero headlines. And it changes everything about how you should be thinking about this. Here's what actually happened with Rio Verde. Real families were affected. Real hardship. Real people who woke up one day without reliable water. That is serious, and I'm not minimizing it. But here's what got buried in paragraph 14 of every single article. Rio Verde Foothills is not inside the city of Scottsdale. It's unincorporated Maricopa County land. That sounds like a technicality until you understand what it means. Those homes were built by what are called wildcat developers. And a wildcat developer is exactly what it sounds like. They found a loophole in Arizona groundwater law that let them build on small parcels under a certain size without ever having to legally prove they had a water supply for the people moving in. Let me say that again. They built hundreds of homes in the Arizona desert without securing water first. That's not a water crisis. That's a planning crisis. That is the real estate equivalent of opening a restaurant and forgetting to install a kitchen, and then acting surprised when people are hungry. Those homeowners who paid good money for their houses had no idea, because the law at the time did not require it. Scottsdale had been supplying water through a hauling arrangement that was never meant to be permanent. Eventually, Scottsdale said, "We have our own residents to protect," and they ended it. National media ran with it. Arizona cuts off water supply. The headlines wrote themselves. Technically accurate, completely missing the context. If you're buying a home inside Scottsdale city limits, connected to Scottsdale municipal water infrastructure, you are in a completely different situation than Rio Verde Foothills. Not slightly different, completely different. The lesson from Rio Verde is not, Do not buy in Scottsdale. The lesson is, know exactly what water infrastructure serves the property you are buying. And that is exactly the kind of question a good agent who actually knows this market helps you answer before you sign anything. So if Rio Verde is not the real story, what is? Because there is a legitimate water conversation happening in Arizona right now. And I promised you the honest version, so here it goes. Let me tell you about what Scottsdale has actually been doing while the rest of the country was reading scary headlines. First, and this one still gets me, Arizona law requires any new development to legally prove it has an assured water supply for the next 100 years before a single home can be sold. 100 years. Not a promise from a salesperson, a legal certification from the Arizona Department of Water Resources. Scottsdale has already certified this for its entire service area. 100 years. I've been in real estate for 20 years, and I can barely get my clients to think 5 years ahead. Arizona is planning a century out. Second, Scottsdale doesn't put its eggs all in one basket. The city draws from multiple sources. The Central Arizona Project, a 336-mile canal system bringing Colorado River water into the valley. The Salt River Project, 7 reservoirs, groundwater held in strategic reserve, and one of the most sophisticated water recycling programs in the country. But here's the one nobody talks about. Scottsdale pumps over 1.7 billion gallons of purified, recycled water back into the underground water for every single year. They inject it into the ground when demand is low and draw from it when demand is high. They are literally banking water underground like a savings account, and they've been doing this for decades. Here's my favorite gut check. Before the mid-1980s, Scottsdale was 100% dependent on groundwater. One single source. Today, that number is less than 10%. They diversified because they planned ahead. That is not a city ignoring its water problem. That is a city that saw it coming and built a system around it. And here's the big picture I always come back to. If Arizona actually ran out of water, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and half the American Southwest would already be gone. The Colorado River serves 7 states and 40 million people. The federal government, state governments, and some of the wealthiest cities in America all have enormous stakes in keeping that water flowing. The idea that Arizona quietly runs out while nobody does anything, that's not how any of this works. Now here's where I say something that might actually surprise you, coming from a guy who sells real estate in Scottsdale. Because I promised you the honest version, and the honest version has 2 sides. Do I think water will be a problem in my lifetime? No, I genuinely don't. Will it be a problem for my grandkids? Maybe. I can't promise you it won't be. But I also can't promise you AI robots won't turn on humanity either. And here's my reasoning. And this is not a sales pitch. It's just logic. There's so much money, so much development, so many people, so many farmers, so many corporations with enormous financial stakes in Arizona water, that if it ever became a genuine crisis that's threatening homes and residents, there would already be an army of engineers, politicians, and very motivated billionaires in a boardroom figuring it out. Because the alternative, a catastrophic water failure in one of America's fastest growing states, would be one of the most expensive economic disasters in modern history. Nobody with real money in this game is going to let that happen without a serious fight. That's not blind optimism. That's understanding how large-scale problems actually get solved. Now, what I will tell you honestly is this. Not all parts of the valley carry the same water picture. Properties inside Scottsdale city limits on full municipal infrastructure, solid. Properties in unincorporated county land on private wells or water hauling, you need to ask more questions before you buy. That's not panic, that's diligence. And it is exactly the kind of thing that separates a good real estate decision from an expensive and regrettable one. Long term, the Colorado River situation is real and not resolving overnight. Arizona is going to keep adapting. Recycled water will play a bigger role. Conservation will become more standard. Water-efficient landscaping, which Scottsdale already does better than almost anyone, will become the norm everywhere. Scottsdale is not in denial about any of this. It's ahead of it. Let's bring this home. Because you're not watching this because you're curious about water policy. You're watching because you're thinking about buying a home here, and you need to know if this is a smart decision. After 20 years of helping people make this move, here are the 3 questions I ask every single buyer who brings up the water situation. Question number 1, is the property inside Scottsdale city limits and connected to municipal water infrastructure? The answer is yes, you are in one of the most water-secure municipalities in the Southwest. If no, We need to understand exactly what system serves that property before we go any further. Full stop. Question number 2. Is this a new development or an established neighborhood? New developments in Arizona are legally required to prove a 100-year water supply. Established Scottsdale neighborhoods have been on proven municipal infrastructure for decades. Either way, you're protected by law, but knowing which situation you're in changes how we evaluate the property. Question number 3. What is your actual time horizon on this purchase? If you're buying a retirement home you plan to live in for 20 to 30 years, the long-term water picture matters more than a 5-year property. For a 20-year horizon inside Scottsdale city limits, I'm genuinely not worried. For a 50-year horizon anywhere in the desert Southwest, plan to see significant adaptation in how water is managed. Not catastrophe, adaptation. Those 3 questions will give you more clarity than 1,000 news articles. And here's the thing about this moment in the market. The buyers who let water headlines stop them from purchasing in Scottsdale 5 years ago, they've watched this market appreciate significantly while they waited on the sidelines for a crisis that never came. The risk of doing nothing, of waiting for the perfect certainty that will never exist, is also a real risk. And it's one a lot of people forget to account for. And if you're still not sure where you land after all this, this is where ChatGPT and Google drop you off, and I will take you to the finish line. Look, if water has been the thing holding you back from seriously considering Scottsdale, I hope this helped. Not because I want you to move here blindly, but because I want you to make this decision based on reality, not on a headline written by someone in a Manhattan newsroom who's never eaten a taco in Arizona. The real Scottsdale water story is this: a city that saw a challenge coming 40 years ago, built a system to handle it, and has been adapting ever since. Is it perfect? Nothing is. Is it a reason to walk away from one of the best lifestyle markets in the country after 40 years of living here? No, it's not. If you're seriously thinking about making a move to Scottsdale this year or a couple years from now, and if you want to talk through what that actually looks like for your specific situation, reach out. My number, my email, everything you need is right here and below. I'm not going to give you a sales pitch. I'm going to ask you the right questions and give you the honest answers. That's it. That's the whole thing. Because the best clients I work with are the ones who move here and love it, not someone I pushed into a decision that was not right for them. That's how I built 20 years in this business, and that's not changing. If this video helped, hit that button. Subscribe for honest Scottsdale content every week. And share this with someone who's been on the fence about Arizona because of the water headlines. It might actually change their decision. Drop a comment below. I want to know, was water a concern for you before watching this? And did this change how you're thinking about it? I read every single comment. Sometimes I even respond. Ask Bill. I'm Charlie O'Malley. As always, thanks for watching Living in Scottsdale, and I'll see you in the next one.